It's theater of the mind. So what what I've got up here is a Debian 9.3 latest build of Debian, and the setup on this is like super simple. So you just go in once you're on your desktop, which I'm using XFCE because I don't like Unity or GNOME or KDE because they're far too bloated. So I have XFCE and I have the terminal. So you git clone. You go to his website on GitHub, which is github.com/TrustedSec/PTF.git. You clone it onto your desktop, into your environment. And once you do that, the only requirement is he wants to make sure that your base install path is correct. So once you go into the Git repo on your local box, there's a config file in the config directory called config, and you open it and there's a base install path, and you can change that to wherever you want to load this to. And one of the requirements for me to set these up was to not run as root. So, I've got sudo set up on here. I want to install all the tools that I need, but I don't want to run as root because Kali's like, oh, you just run as root and you have a lame ass password, and it's all safe and everything. But when you're on it, a lot of people I've been talking to is when you're on engagements, you don't want to run like that because you're running all kinds of stuff on your Kali box, and you don't want to, portray being insecure or, getting owned yourself while you're on the environment. So I set mine up to run in opt/pentest. So everything is going to get installed in opt/pentest. And once you stop and you save that, you can start up PTF, which is fairly simple. You just go to the ptf.git, where your local Git repo is. I type in sudo ptf, asks me for my password. It asks me, oh, not PFT, PTF, my bad. I'm working on this, okay? So, and there you go. And then it comes up, it tells you the version, tells you what the code name is. It says a project by TrustedSec, written by Dave Kennedy, Relic, at Hacking Dave on Twitter. So, send him some love if you want. So it tells you the tool count that's available. So there's 220 tools in the environment. One of the first things you do, and it brings you to a very Metasploit looking command line. So you have PTF with a greater than sign, and you can type question mark, and it tells you all the tools that you need. So you can do show modules. You can show a specific module. You can search for a specific name. So if you wanted to search for Nmap, you can search for Nmap, and it comes up fairly quickly, a lot quicker than Metasploit.
That's really quick.
Even with the database, you have to wait for the results. So let's say you wanted to install Nmap. You just go in, copy, use, and in this case, it's under modules, vulnerability-analysis Nmap. So you go copy that. Now, I've already installed it, but what happens, you go in, you go show options, and it will show you everything that's on there, including a module description. So for the Nmap, it says this module will install or update Nmap, and it will also install NCAT, which is Fyodor's version of Netcat, which is great because base Netcat does not have access to things like SSH or using SSL. So when you're making your tunnels going back from boxes that you've ran shell on, NCAT does allow for SSL to be used, which if you're exfilling data out on a project or something, the last thing you want to do is open a shell out and have it unencrypted, because that can actually be sniffed from what I gathered. So the important thing is this is extremely extensible. You can go in and you go into the modules section, and you can look by various categories: AV-bypass, code-audit, exploitation, intelligence gathering. If you go into each of those, there are different Python scripts that you can use.
Ooh, PowerShell.
There's a PowerShell section all about this. Yeah. Also post-exploitation. There's also a web shell directory. So one of the ones I looked up was called Weavely, which if you just look at the Python config file for that, you can actually create this. This reminded me a lot of anybody's ever used OpenBSD, the ports system that they have there, where they have a config file. So each one of these .py scripts is a collection of variables used to build your script. or to build your application. So you have author, Dave Kennedy, description, this module will install or update Weebly, a web shell. Install type, get, SVN, file download, etc. So you have install underscore type. There's a GitHub for it. So it says get. Location of the file. So it shows the GitHub repo, github.com/epina, EPINNA -Weebly3. Asks you where you want to install it to. So the install location is Weebly. So the initial variable that I gave, op/pentest/, and then it would go into Weebly. And for dependencies for Debian or Fedora, they're the same. So if Debian had a different command for installing whatever it was you got, let's say you use wget for Debian, you might use curl for Fedora. There'd be different ways to download that file. There's also commands to run afterwards. So if you have, let's say you're running Cool, CEWL, which is the word list generator, or you need something that requires a word list. The after command would be like, once you've installed this, copy this file into this directory, or you need to run this to register the application, that kind of thing. There's also an additional launcher, I would assume, for creating a custom launch command or arguments. In this case, if you want to run it with default arguments of like -V for Nmap in this case. So once you do that, you can go in. I've got Nmap here. You just type run, and what it will do is it will go in, look for various dependencies. It'll download. It'll run apt-get, apt-update. It'll look for everything necessary to install. It goes into the SVN. I'm actually downloading the latest version of Nmap in this case and compiling it from source. It's really nice. I enjoy it. I'm running the nightly Metasploit as well. I downloaded some Samba tools because I was running a vulnerable VM. So once that's done, you've got the latest nightly build of Nmap running on your Debian box. So much nicer than the package version, which you would find on whatever repos are available for Debian or Ubuntu. So the other thing I've been learning how to do is taking better notes. So I wanted to get a decent app. So I found one called Cherry Tree. That actually I discovered that through Kali, but I actually find that it's more feature rich than the other ones like KeepNote or ZimWiki. I've tried using TiddlyWiki and I've just not been a fan of those either. And so, I mean, those it seems to work really well. The nodes on it are nice. You can make a test node and then you can make sub nodes underneath it. So I was creating, different ones here. Like I was running through the Keyoptrix vulnerable VM. So I, broke down, the reports by Nmap or NBT and running various commands and putting the output of those in there. I'm trying to keep track of, pieces of code that I use for vulnerabilities. But yeah, that's some of the stuff that I've been working on. I'd actually like to incorporate more of this into the show where we have kind of walkthroughs of various tools or various vulnerable VMs to, give you ideas on how to walk through and work with these vulnerabilities. So yeah, that's something I have been working on so far.